Yes, I have finally finished Gintama and now I have a new top 1 anime. Well, JoJo is still a top 1 manga for me, but Gintama as an anime really can't be touched by anything else after watching the final length of this amazing journey. I had finished both Silver Soul and Silver Soul Aftermath a few days ago, and so for today I'll be talking about both of these arcs in this video. I really loved them both, especially the Aftermath, which is now my second favorite Gintama arc, just below Farewell Shinsengumi and over Shogun Assassination. I plan on reading the Silver Soul arc in manga format soon, as people have said that it's better that way, so I'll check out the manga for it. The reason I didn't read manga Silver Soul back then was because I didn't want to break the momentum when watching the anime, but since I'm finished now, I'ma have to check it out. But right before we get into talking about these two great arcs, subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button, turn on bell notifications and follow my Twitter down below. Also join the new Discord server in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now the first thing I have to get into is of course the first arc I'll be talking about, Silver Soul, more specifically the first two parts in the anime, excluding the stuff after the time skip. Silver Soul was really good, especially the whole Utsuro fight I'll be sure to talk about. The first half of Silver Soul had a pretty good setup, and I really liked how all of Edo banded together to take on their obvious enemy, kind of like what had happened in 4 Davis but bigger. Seeing everyone's individual strength was great, and the more moments we see of the many different characters just shows us how much they've grown throughout the series. Also, seeing the Shinsengumi return was really one of the main parts why I loved the earlier moments of Silver Soul, cause they were just great as always. Oh, and yeah, the comedy as well. Seeing the comedy return just made me love Gintama even more. Even though there were some comedic moments in the serious arcs, comedy became a pretty main thing in early Silver Soul. It still had some serious moments, but it mixed in well in the arc, which kept me entertained all the way through. Besides the comedy, the whole setup of Utsuro slowly closing in was intense, and seeing every time he just appeared really got me pumped up to see what he would do. But since it was just a setup, we had to wait for a little while until Utsuro became the real main threat to the fight, and so the different fights before him were fine, but of course seeing Edo coming together was cool to see. Also, past characters coming back was to be expected, and I loved to see that. Now the second half of Silver Soul was where we got to finally see the Utsuro fight, and it was great. Hype all the way through, and the animation really became so much better at some point. Before the Utsuro fight, there were many great moments dedicated to the characters that were fighting in space. Takasugi, Katsura and Sakamoto all got some banger sequences, and especially Takasugi's monologue on what a hero is to people. It really made him feel more human and grounded, because as we knew before, he was the big bad final villain type, untouchable and prideful in his motives. But after seeing his entire fight against Ensho and the rest of the Amanto, we finally got to realize the other parts of Takasugi, like his relationship with the Kaihetai and what he really thinks about himself. I really loved this whole moment, and it really made us start to understand and connect to Takasugi a lot more. Another moment I really loved in the earlier parts of part 2 is of course Nobunobu's moment. After hating him for so long ever since the Shinigami arc, I finally accepted Nobunobu as a great character, and I loved his final moments in Gintama. These final moments really had shown the outcome of his growth that he had gotten ever since Rakio, and his death made me sad, as well as seeing the old shogun Shige was a nice touch to the conclusion of his successor. It's so crazy how Gintama does this so many times and it still hits hard. Really was one of the most respectful deaths in anime, and knowing what he left behind made me appreciate his character even more. Nobunobu goated. I never thought I'd say that. Moving on to the next thing, the Utsuro fight. Utsuro vs everyone and the end of Silver Soul, as everything after the time skip is considered Silver Soul Aftermath. Now seeing the main fighters going up against Utsuro kept me wrapped up in chills for the longest time. We all know this guy is really overpowered and undoubtedly the strongest character in Gintama, so how is he going to be beaten? In this fight we finally get to see how that is executed, and wow, I can say this made me go through many different emotions. General hypeness, fear, overall shock, and of course sadness because Gintoki is going up against his own teacher's body. I respect Gintoki's resolve so much as he was able to have the will to even kill his teacher with his own 2 hands. He already had done that once, now again, Gintoki definitely deserves all respect. The whole fight was animated so nicely compared to what we had before, and the overall visuals were used well in the different feelings that were felt in this fight. Also, I have to say, Shinpachi surprised me a lot. He made me get out of my seat and go crazy when he started taking on Utsuro by himself. Like, literally the strongest person in the world up against some beginner samurai. Shinpachi is so goated for having the will to take up Utsuro in a one-on-one, and even though Utsuro was weakened, I still have to praise Shinpachi for swinging his sword against someone as threatening as Utsuro. It was such a hype and surprising moment that I probably will never forget. That was just so good. Now, the end of the fight gave me questions on where it will go next, because I had the same thought as Gintoki. Utsuro never actually died there, and he survived to execute his plan in a different way. A way that would take 2 years to finally take part in. This would then lead into the aftermath of Silver Soul, aka my now second favorite arc and the end of this amazing series. The start of this arc surprised me and probably everyone else who had seen it firsthand. Gintama had just literally cut 2 years into the future, and it was an actual real time skip as well. I had first thought it was just another comedy skip because I couldn't really believe Gintama would have a real time skip after the fake ones we had gotten in the past. But we did, we finally got a real time skip, and the result surprisingly gave us greatness once again. We have the Eurasier going their separate ways to find what they truly want to do, but of course there is nothing they could do that feels right by themselves, and eventually we slowly start to see them return to Edo as Utsuro starts to make his move through the people he now controls. The part of this arc that was in the anime was a nice setup and an introduction to the new time skip we had gotten, and it showed us what the characters we know and love are now doing, but it also shows us what a world without the true Eurasier is, giving us time with a lone Shinpachi for a bit until the rest of the Eurasier finally return. I have to say, both Shinpachi and Kagura's gloves were great, and the reason I'm saying were is because they literally go back to wearing their old uniforms afterwards, which is pretty funny, but it's crazy how they still look the same with those uniforms 2 years later. But the person who literally still looks the same after the time skip is none other than the main protagonist. I wasn't expecting him to change his look, so I'm glad. Now that I've talked about my thoughts on the time skip, let's talk about this masterpiece of a movie, Gintama the Final. Going into this movie, I was expecting some really great stuff from hearing all the good amount of hype surrounding it. But wow, I knew it was gonna be good, but this really surpassed my already high expectations, which is crazy. I loved every minute of it, and I actually cried more than once viewing the movie, which is rare for me when watching literally anything. The style of the movie was hilarious and made me love the comedy side of Gintama like always, as it literally gave us a recap of events by using references from the likes of Dragon Ball Z and One Piece, and moments afterwards they threw us back into the serious situation Edo is currently in, showing us the assault on the tower by the remaining students of Shoyo. This arc is where I truly love Takasugi's character more than ever. He finally gets a lot more moments and screen time here, and the setup to his final conclusion was perfect. Talking about the assault on the tower, seeing all the characters of Gintama barging in like last time felt even better when listening to the amazing insert song that was in the movie. The hype was more real than ever, and this was the time where we finally got to see what all these characters are going to do before the series finally ends. And they all did it in an incredible fashion, supported by the stunning animation and visuals, as well as the music like I said before. Now after a few more scenes, we finally get up to the final confrontation between Gintoki and Utsuro. And man, the production in this was over 10 out of 10. Even though it was just an illusion, Utsuro going crazy on Gintoki visually looked amazing and was really well done, and the twist shocked me so much afterwards. Gintoki, Takasugi, Shoyo, Utsuro, and even the last bits of Oboro gave us such great moments in the sequence in the movie, as well as giving us one of the greatest standoffs in anime. Takasugi's will still lived on in his controlled body, aiding Gintoki to kill Utsuro once and for all, as well as he himself, Takasugi. The moment which made me cry and appreciated the conclusion of this amazing character, Takasugi Shinsuke. Gintoki's whole dialogue in the scene really hit hard and made us understand what Takasugi really meant to him as friends who had always fought. This scene seriously lives rent-free in my head. Some other moments I really loved in the movie were Shoyo finally getting to meet the Eurasier, Shoyo's sacrifice, any Shinsengumi scene, and of course the ending scene. Man, this movie was so good, and also the last Gintama ending, which combined all the past endings into one, was made so well. I remember calling out each number of the ending I had seen when watching it. Top 1 ending in Gintama easily. My overall thoughts on Gintama as a whole now are that I really think this is the best anime I have ever watched. Top 1 in my books for now, but I really think nothing can really contest it at the moment. This entire journey was amazing all the way through, and it gave me so many great memories of crying from laughter and sadness, and appreciating each and every episode from any comedy or serious parts of the series. I love Gintama, and I think if you're able to love the comedy aspect of it when getting into it, you'll surely make it your top 1 after you're finished. So that's where I'm gonna end it off for today. Hopefully you did enjoy, and if you did, make sure to put some more video ideas in the comments below. But like always, subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button, turn on bell notifications, and follow my Twitter down below. Also, join the Discord server in the description below. It's been Endless Requiem, peace.